Recently, I built my dream reptile room and I am so happy with how it turned out. I spent months planning each enclosure and tailoring them to each species. I had a couple weeks of enjoying a nice, tidy new reptile room before it was time to start on the second reptile room. That's right, I am doing this process all over again in order to make the perfect gecko room. This project wasn't exactly the smoothest, and in fact, halfway through, I had to take on an emergency rehome. So stay tuned to see what went wrong, what went right, and what new animal is joining the family. Let's get right into part 1 of building the perfect gecko room. The first step was to clear out all the enclosures and furniture that were currently in this room. My new tidy reptile room was about to not be so tidy because each of the gecko's enclosures had to go on the floor. The first gecko to be moved was Tim Tam the barking gecko. Barking geckos come from Australia and they make a fantastic alternative to a leopard gecko. I got Tim Tam 6 months ago and from day one he's been super chill and very friendly. And to be honest, he's the one that inspired this brand new gecko room. We kept Tim Tam safe by putting him into a travel container whilst we cleaned out his enclosure. The next gecko to be moved out of this room was Cheese the Crested gecko. Crested geckos are fantastic first pet reptiles. I've had Cheese for almost 2 years now and I've raised him since he was 4 grams, so a teeny tiny baby. He also waited patiently in a travel container whilst we moved his enclosure. And the final gecko to move out of the room for now is Honey the Gargoyle gecko. I got this clumsy girl at the same time as Cheese, meaning I've had her for almost 2 years. Now that all the animals had been moved out of this room, it was time to start taking down the old shelving unit. The room was now completely cleared and ready to be painted. I chose pink to match the other reptile room, but when we moved the furniture out the way, that's when the first problem arose. We are a few days into building the gecko room. This is my previous reptile room and it's just been all painted. It looks beautiful and pink and the whole area now is all cohesive. It's all the same color. So that's great. But of course, it wouldn't be a reptile room build without problems. The problem we've had is that one of the vivs was leaking because I didn't seal it. My bad. And so all the carpet underneath is all messed up. So what we're having to do is we're gonna rip up the carpet just in this area only, and then we're gonna put vinyl down. This carpet is in a bit of a state anyway. This has been an animal room flooring situation for like, what, 8 years, 9 years or something. This used to be a rabbit room at one point. So the skirting boards are chewed from when I had rabbits. It has just seen better days. The carpet in the other reptile room is gonna stay just because I'm not moving all of those vivs to put the flooring down. But yeah, we had the guy come and measure up the room for the flooring this morning. This is gonna set me back, I think, probably a week or 2. There's always something. There's always something. So yeah, I can't really get anything into place. I can't put the new racking up. I'll show you where the animals are right now. This is the reptile room currently. Just ignore all this. But we've got Tim Tam here. I've put him on paper towel. It's just easier to move his viv around. But we've got Tim Tam on the floor there. And then we've got Cheese in the corner over here. And then we've just got all of this everywhere. But if we maneuver over this way, I've got my C Versi in here, and then I've got an empty setup there. And then I've got 2 tarantulas just down there. So yeah, stuff is everywhere. This is like my least favorite part of setting up reptile rooms, is when there is just, oh my gosh, stuff absolutely everywhere. Bit chaotic, but you know what? The outcome is gonna be great. I'm gonna show you how this room is looking now. So this is the paint job. This is what we've had done. If I come around here, you can see that pink matches here. And we've gone all the way up to the ceiling with that pink because of like where the racking unit will be. And then I've got a very light pink on the walls and the ceiling. Right here, we have got Honey, because her viv is like super heavy and pretty much unable to move. We're gonna have to somehow get it over there. But yeah, this is the carpet situation. This is where we had the leak. So we've cut all that bit up just to let like the floorboards dry, and we've taken away all of the carpet gripper around the edges. So now today the plan is to cut all this out and rip all the carpet up. I never knew that designing a reptile room would give me so many new hobbies. Becoming a floorboard expert. I now know that these are antifungal floorboards apparently. But anyway, there's always something, but I'm so excited to get this done and I can finally get back to usual scheduling. But yeah, I'll see you when we're ripping the carpet up, I guess. Cutting out this carpet was probably one of the most satisfying parts of building this reptile room, and it felt so good to finally get it gone. I honestly should have done this years ago. However, we didn't want to make a mess all over the house. That would have been a pain to clean up, so we opted to just throw the carpet out the window. My dog was clearly loving this process as much as us too. Now that the carpet was completely gone, I gave the room a really good hoover and clean and went to pick out my new flooring. The people at this flooring shop were amazing and they knew how much of a rush I was in, so they got someone in ASAP to fit it. I'm so happy with how it turned out, and I'm really happy with the design that I chose for the floor too. After 24 hours, we went and siliconed the vinyl in place and began the task of moving everything back into the reptile room. Building enclosures is obviously fun, but I do really enjoy the little things too. Whether it's adding some practical things onto the wall or buying a funky new colored rug, I just love adding my own personal touch. So when I was having a look at different shelving units for this new gecko room, I had to go for this bright pink one. I actually waited months for this to come back in stock because it kept selling out. And I really think it was worth the wait because it just feels like me. A lot of reptile rooms online kind of look the same, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you want an all black or all white room, that's fine. But it's also okay to stand out. If you want a pink girly reptile room, then make a pink girly reptile room. The furniture was now all back into the gecko room, but there are animals in here that aren't geckos, like Obi-Wan, my scorpion, and this deadly fluffy creature. But the geckos, after a week delay, could finally move back into this room. I got all the enclosures set up again and did my best at cable management whilst I wait for my electrician to come. And of course, I sealed the enclosures with silicone this time. I am not making that mistake again. Tim Tams didn't need sealing, so he could go straight back into his setup, but poor Cheese did have to wait a while in a travel container until his silicone was fully cured and his enclosure was all set up again. Honey, however, is on standby until her custom enclosure arrives. It's a PVC Viv just like Cheese's enclosure, and it's going to go in this spot here. Now at this point, I was going to end the video here, and that was going to be part 1 of building the gecko room. Over the next few days, I was just doing little bits like adding a coffee station and making any custom enclosure labels that still needed to be made, which, by the way, you can pick up from my Etsy shop if you want your own. However, when I was hanging out in the new reptile room, I was doing my usual scroll on Pets for Homes. And that's when one specific gecko really caught my eye, and after hearing his story, I just knew I had to bring him home. This gecko is about 6.5 years old, and he was kept in a brilliant setup for many years. He had overhead heating, UVB, and a 4-foot enclosure. But one day that vivarium broke, and unfortunately this gecko had to be housed in a plastic container with a heat mat because the owner couldn't afford to get a new Viv, and that is fair enough. These things happen. So I ordered a Viv and I set up the enclosure as quickly as I possibly could so this gecko could get back to having overhead heating and UVB. Since I didn't have very long to make a background, I made a very makeshift one with some silicone and some stone desert. This was really quick and easy to do, and honestly it turned out pretty nice. I'm quite happy with it. Once the enclosure was in place and the background had cured, I started to install all of the heating and lighting elements. He's got a 7% shade dweller and a 25-watt heat lamp connected to a dimming thermostat. He's not having proper substrate quite just yet, as I want to monitor his poops, so he'll be on paper towel for a few weeks. I then placed in his water bowl and 2 hides, a cool hide and a warm hide. In the center, he's got a humid hide if he needs any help whilst shedding, and then I placed in other decor items just to make him feel safe. This is a good example of a quarantine setup and not a permanent housing situation. But it was finally time to collect the gecko, and after all that, it was too hot to have the heat lamp and UVB on anyway. Yeah, did I forget to mention we did all of this during a heat wave? Anyway, we had finally got the new addition. Everyone meet Egg the leopard gecko. He's been settling in perfectly, so I'll be setting up his permanent enclosure soon. Egg is such a wonderful addition to this gecko room. He has so much character and personality. I understand why you guys love Leo so much. But that brings us to the end of part 1 of building this gecko room. If you haven't already, please make sure you do subscribe for future updates of this room, and so you don't miss any more enclosure upgrades or builds. Comment down below what your pet geckos are called, and I'll see you all later. Bye bye.